Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Network Saturday, April 18th, 2015. This is episode 1179. Enjoy. The Tech Guy is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, or other Apple product is worth at Gazelle.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk about computers and the internet, home theater, digital photography, and all of that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That is the phone number. Did I say that too fast? I'm sorry. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada or New Jersey. Your pick. If you're outside of those three areas, you can also reach us merely by calling us via Skype. 888-827-5536. The website, techguylabs.com. You might want to visit that after the show. If you hear me say something and you're interested in finding out more, you could go there. It's free. There's no sign up. You just, you wander in. It's like a mall of computer and technology information. You just browse through it. There's no charge. In fact, if there's anything, I'd love it if you'd leave comments or suggest, if you read it a question and you say, I think there's a better answer. techguylabs.com. Every show, show by show, hour by hour, question by question, easy to navigate, and everything's there, including audio and video from previous shows. So if you missed, last week's show, you can go back and get it there. The countdown is beginning. Friday, the Apple Watch arrives. Apple has not trumpeted sales, so that's a revealing a piece of information, believe it or not. The lack of information sometimes is information. Typically, if Apple has a massive weekend, as they often do for the iPhone, the Monday after, last Monday, they would have said pre-orders exceeded XYZ. Didn't say anything. We're very happy with the sales, says Tim Cook. And it is true that if you go into a store, they won't have one. You can't, unless you're buying the $10,000 one. They might have one of those. But if you go online to order, back ordered till June now. Even the fancy gold watch is back ordered till June. So, on the surface of it, on the face of it, it looks like, well, they must have sold pretty well. Analysts have said, and there seems to be, I don't know how they figured this out, some agreement, 1 million in the first weekend. That sounds good, doesn't it? It's okay. It's okay. We had heard the rumor Apple was making 5 million. Now I'm thinking making 5 million maybe for the whole year. You're going to get the most sales right up front. The people, frankly, like me, who I got to order it. I want it as fast as possible. Those are going to go quick. So that's what the 1 million was, 1 million pre-orders. Now it slows down a little bit. And it's even going to be slower because you can't go into a store and just say, I'll take that. You can look at it. You could try it on. A lot of people are doing that. And it's apparently not difficult to get into a store and try it on, even if you haven't made a previous appointment. But if you say, I'll take that, they'll say, good, let's go over here. See, this is a web browser. Please order it online. They may not say it quite like that. But that's you're going to have to, and you won't get it for a couple months at this point. So I don't know. Somebody in the chat room says 1 million watches, maybe that's like $500 million. Yeah, it's probably average around, no, that's $500 per. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the cheapest is $349. I bet the average is $500-600. So it's not it's not. What's the profit margin in that watch? I don't know. Although Apple's quite good at finding. You know what? I'm reading a book called Becoming Steve Jobs. It's a good book by Brent Schlender. and it's about how Steve became Steve. You know, he went through he was kind of a brat, let's face it, in the early years, and he went through a walk in the wilderness after being fired at Apple, and then came back mature, more sensible. And one of the things he talks about, and this is an anecdote I hadn't heard before, is that Steve and his wife Lorene would go to places like Paris. And see, my idea of a great time in Paris is sit in a cafe, have a cup of coffee, maybe see the Eiffel Tower, or go to a museum. His idea, and apparently Lorene's too, although more his, of a great idea in Paris is going to all the fancy stores, the Cartiers, the I don't even know them, the Chanels, the Diors. Is that right? Is that a store? I don't even know. The haute couture stores. And Lorene would kind of apparently browse around, kind of, they weren't that kind of fancy people. In fact, Steve would be wearing his traditional ratty cutoffs, Birkenstocks, and a black T-shirt. I think people probably figured out that when he walked in that he probably was he was a celebrity by then. They probably, it's billionaires often do that. They dress like down because they don't have to dress up. There's nobody to impress. But they'd wander in. And Steve would just pick one of the sales associates and pepper them with questions. Why is it this way? Why is it dark over here? Why don't you have more merchandise on display? Why have you lit this part this way? Where do people go? How do they browse in the store? He was already, and this is in the early 2000s, studying to figure out, because look, you're a businessman. You look at these dresses that cost $1.50 to make, and they're selling for $1,500 to $15,000. And for a business person, that's like, wow. How do you get people to buy something, to create a perceived value for something that is so massively in excess of its actual physical cost to make? And obviously the lesson well learned even 3 years now after Steve's passing. Apple hired Angela Ahrendts. She was the former CEO of Burberry, who had taken that British raincoat company from dowdy to trendy in a matter of years. They hired her to run their retail operation. There's no accident, really. So when I say I don't know how much the watch costs to make, that's kind of, there's a point behind that. It may cost very little to make. It certainly, frankly, costs, if you subtract the materials, less than $350 to make. That's what the sport watch costs. And then you add a gold outside, and the gold experts say that adds maybe a couple of grand. So let's say that $10,000 Apple Edition watch, parts and labor and everything are somewhere around, $2,500. And the markup is 400% at least. You add a band, which is merely a gold buckle and a bit of red leather, that's another $7,000. I guarantee you that band did not cost more than $500 to make. So Apple seems to have found that holy grail of retailing where they can make something, imbue something with worth by the way they display it, by the way they talk about it, by the way they market it, gives it all the worth that it doesn't have actually intangibly in its physical reality. And it's interesting because when you buy a $350 Apple Watch, you're getting exactly the same innards as Pharrell's $17,000 Apple Watch. Exactly the same innards. The outside is coated with magical substances and unicorn tears, but the inside, there's no more RAM, there's no faster processors, nothing. The innards are exactly the same. And I think this is a triumph of Apple. They finally have crossed over from being a computer company. Steve always hated this. He hated the way PCs were sold in the 90s in kind of grubby little stores. And all the boxes were metallic and looked the same and were boxes and boring. And he hated that. And in fact, when he came back to Apple in 1998, what did he do? He made the iMac. Same grubby little insides, but the outside, Bondi Blue and roly-poly. And they even took an extra length of time and significant cost to add a handle to this machine, which weighed 38 pounds. You're not going to pick it up and walk around, but he really wanted a handle. A brilliant guy at appearances, as well as, let's face it, the inside is pretty good too. And I think Apple has finally found its real niche here with the Apple Watch. Hey, let's take some calls. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I just need one more silver dollar. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This is the 10th anniversary. Actually, yesterday was the 10th anniversary of my podcast network, and we're celebrating tomorrow. I like your Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers t-shirt. That's Heather Hammond, the Phone Ranger.
Thanks.
That is a throwback. Did you get that No?
No.
You know they're touring again.
Yeah, but
are they in their
15
80s?
dates.
How old are they? 70s?
He's 71.
Mick, when you say
Yeah.
he.
Sorry.
Keith Richards is going to outlive everybody. He's like a cockroach. You can't kill him.
I know.
Amazing guys. I saw him last tour.
Let's see,
15 is plenty for somebody in their 70s to rock out 15 times. That's plenty of dates.
And they're bypassing us entirely.
The San Francisco Bay Area where we
Yeah.
are, they're not coming here.
Yeah.
The Rolling Stones got their start in San Francisco in 1967. No, that's not true, actually.
Maybe they didn't want to relive the whole Altamont situation.
In a way, it's, the same thing. The Grateful Dead are apparently, I thought they were dead, but the Grateful Dead are still together somewhat, and they're doing their farewell tour. And initially it was just Chicago. And I thought, well, of course, they got their start, as many people remember, in the Windy City. No.
Well,
so
their very last show was there, so they're reliving
the last
show, I guess.
But they have decided to play San Francisco. They're Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
Which is kind of odd because I feel like a lot of fans from here already bought airfare and everything to go to Chicago, and then they announced the June dates here.
I'm so confused by the whole thing. Anyway, but I am so ADD, as many of us in the tech industry are. Attention deficit disorder. I don't know if it's created by all the G-jaws and gadgets in our life, so that we squirrel.
Yeah.
Or if we were born that way and that's why we were drawn to tech. I don't know, and that's the question for the ages. But I admit that I was completely thrown off track by your Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers t-shirt, which I enjoy.
Where are we? What are we doing?
What are we doing here? Why am I talking to you? Who are you? You would be Heather Hammond, the Phone Ranger. Her job, and it's not an easy job, is to carefully cull the millions of phone calls we get each week to find just the right 12 people. And you have started to line them up already. With whom should I begin?
Jim made my job so easy. He's in Saginaw, Michigan, and has a great question for you.
Jim in Saginaw. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you, Heather.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, Jim.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, Leo, question for you. I want to upgrade my cell phone.
Okay.
I currently use an iPhone 4.
Yes.
And I want to go to the iPhone 5S or possibly 6.
It's time to upgrade. Yes, definitely. Okay.
So my question is, do the newer phones get better reception than the old phones?
Yeah. Well, the 4 was what they call the antenna gate iPhone. The you're holding it wrong iPhone.
Right.
So, yes, the answer would be yes. That's something people don't often talk about, and certainly we kind of tech enthusiasts rarely talk about, is the phone portion of a smartphone, mostly because I think we find many of us are making fewer and fewer phone calls. But all phones vary significantly in antenna capabilities, reception, as well as mere audio quality. So, yes, the new iPhone 6s are much better.
Okay.
I think what's happened, the original cell phones, remember, had extensible antennas, right? You'd pull it out of the body. And those worked the best because they were extensible antennas. They came out of the body. What happens, your hand attenuates the signal by touching the phone. So getting something coming out of the phone is always the best. But manufacturers quickly realized nobody wants an antenna coming out of the body. They break off. They look ugly. So early on, Motorola, I think, was the first, but many others, Nokia, started just building the antenna into the body, knowing that would reduce the quality considerably. There's just no way you could put an antenna in a body, especially a body held by a human hand, a moist human hand, and still get the same reception. But they've gotten better. I mean, they've made a lot of effort to tune the antennas. You'll notice on all the new phones, the iPhone in particular, have little plastic areas. That's where the juice gets out. Metal breaks the antenna. So that's where the juice gets out and into the air or back into your phone. And I think the iPhone 6 antenna is quite good. One way Apple solved this problem, which is pretty typical of Apple, is they just changed the way the bars work. So you'd have more bars without better signal. That's how they fixed the iPhone 4, the antenna gate. They just changed the code that showed how many bars there were. Hey, we got to fix. Look, we got more bars now. It's like, do they think we're idiots? Yes. No, actually, I'll tell you what happens. It's a certain kind of arrogance. And Apple, I love Apple, and I think they make great products. But there is a certain kind of arrogance that, you guys, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And they just didn't like it that people were looking at the bars on the phone as they held their phone and watching the bars go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And so they said, well, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think always it's better to get the newer stuff. The iPhone 6 now has been out for 8 months. 6 months, and it's a great phone. Lovely phone, beautifully designed. Yeah. You now have bigger phones. That 4 is, the 4 is puny. 3.5 inches compared to the 5-inch iPhone 6 and the 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus. And I think you'll notice a nice improvement.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking is one of the things was I used a carrier before I'm using these, what do they call them? The MV...
an MVNO, yeah. So with an MVNO, you're always on a major carrier, often Sprint.
Uh-huh.
So that's you're still on just because you're using an MVNO. They're just reselling AT&T or Sprint typically.
Okay, so when I had the AT&T one, I couldn't get very good reception, but it was an iPhone 3. So I moved up to an iPhone 4, went to a Verizon MVNO.
It does change. It changes all the time, really. That's the problem with it. For instance, Verizon, which used to be very good in this area, has suddenly just gone to heck. AT&T is widely considered now the best. Apple blamed AT&T for the dropped calls on the iPhone 4, and it is very true. AT&T got better and better and better. I think on an iPhone, AT&T in most areas of the country is the best, but it really depends on your area.
Okay. Well, that answers my question.
Yeah, get it. You're going to love it.
A lot. Okay.
Thanks for the call, Jim. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 8888 Ask Leo. Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy, is coming up in just a few minutes. We'll talk home theater. Very few reviewers of phones anymore do give you information about things like call quality. But I have to say, and you probably noticed this too, these things get better over time. And I haven't dropped a cell phone call in a long time. Remember that used to be very, very, especially with the iPhone 4, used to be very, very common. And it doesn't seem to happen much anymore. And so I would guess that both the carriers and the phones have gotten better. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We go back to the phones in a little bit. But first, right after this break, Scott Wilkinson, home theater guru, with some advice on getting better home theater. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Mr. Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guru. Scott is just back from the NAB show, which is not, it's a tech show, but it's not. It's kind of an insider tech show for broadcasters. Although increasingly, I was there too. In fact, we did 3 specials there. Scott did a special. Our Father Robert Balacer, our reporter from the Vatican, did day 2 of NAB. And then I did a panel at NAB about the future of broadcasting. And all 3 of those are available at our website for the podcast, twit.tv/specials. I don't know what your experience was, Scott, because you've been to many NAB shows.
I have.
Really, that show in particular was always for kind of radio. It was for radio station engineers.
Well, it used to be, I guess.
Broadcast engineers, TV engineers, big cameras and stuff. And it's got more, consumer electronics and digital technology has changed broadcasting significantly. And I thought there was a big presence this year of companies catering to streaming media. to online media, to how you get your TV show not through the airwaves with a big transmitter and tower, but through the internet.
Yep. So you're obviously Twit is ahead of the curve. You know,
that's what we do. We're an IPTV station.
You're an internet TV station.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was very, very important for you to be there and for us to be covering it.
I'm not going to afford to buy all that stuff. It's very expensive. But it's fun to see the change happening, you know?
It really is. It really is. And I think the reason that I go primarily is because what the professionals do, the tools they have, the capabilities they have, what they do to create content is what determines what we as consumers see and hear as content. So I want to see what they're doing. And that also points the way toward the future of consumer electronics because of trickling down, right?
I have to say, I feel vindicated because for years, for more than a decade, I've been saying, forget 3D, let's go 4K. 4K is the future. Now HD's everywhere. I was at the baseball game yesterday, and it used to be a big deal that there was going to be an HD broadcast of a baseball game, and I'm looking, all the cameras are HD. Everything's HD now. The next thing, forget 3D, flopola, 4K. And 4K was everywhere at that show.
Everywhere. It was entirely ubiquitous. But I got to tell you, the thing that excited me the most was high dynamic range. Did you see any of those demos?
I didn't. Tell me about that.
Oh, man.
We know about that with still photography. A lot of still photographers are enamored of the idea of showing a broad. So let's talk about dynamic range in video. It means in audio, it means the difference between the quietest thing and the loudest thing. In video, it's between the darkest thing and the brightest thing. Your eyes,
same as in photography.
Yeah, it's the same as in photography. Your eyes can see a certain range, maybe 8 or 9 stops from the darkest to the lightest, and our eyes really trick us because they adjust very quickly. So if you're at a sunset, you look down, you can see the beach. You look up, you can see the sun. A camera goes, well, wait a minute. There's too much difference. There's 12 stops of difference. I can't do that. So one of these, I'm going to expose for either the sun or the beach, but I can't do both. Right. But HDR is a technique of combining, and this is what I think what's changing, but combining still images, you have a still image that exposes for the dark part, a still image that exposes for the light part, and then you merge them so you can see everything. And it can be a little disturbing because it's too vivid, but if it's done right, subtly, it actually looks great. Now, how do you do it in video?
Well, in video, we actually now have video cameras, mostly cinema cameras, although they're coming down in price. Blackmagic has them, Red has them, that have 14 to 16 stops of dynamic range.
Wow.
Just natively. And so we are able to capture what are called high dynamic range, or HDR images, video images, moving images, just fine, no problem. The problem has been, how do you display them? And there have been no displays that could reproduce that wide a range of dynamic range. And at the show this year, we saw several that were really jaw-dropping. Now, Dolby has developed a high dynamic range system they call Dolby Vision. That's been around for a year or two, at least in the demonstration phase. And they showed it this year as well, but we saw some others also. Sony showed a high dynamic range OLED or OLED broadcast monitor, 30 inches for $42,000. But they showed it right next to a standard dynamic range SDR monitor. Actually, it was the same OLED, but it was displaying standard dynamic range graded content, as opposed to the other one, which was displaying content that had been graded for this higher dynamic range. And you look at them next to each other and you go, wow, that's amazing. The high dynamic range brings out so much more detail than the standard dynamic range. And you can expand the color gamut. You can use a wider range of colors, and they stay consistent over a wider dynamic range. With standard dynamic range, if you go up near the top of the possibility of the display, everything turns to white and it gets blown out. You've seen that in photos as well. But with a high dynamic range monitor or TV, all of that color remains completely natural all the way up. And it gives you a lot more headroom. It's not like if you see a snow scene or that shot in the Matrix where Morpheus is explaining to Neo what the Matrix is, and it's this total white background. It's not like that's going to be 10 times brighter than it used to be. They're just using this ultra high brightness, and that's part of what high dynamic range is, for what are called specular highlights, tiny little reflections off of shiny surfaces, that kind of thing.
So unless you're looking for it, would you notice it?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it.
So does it look unnatural?
No. Well, it depends on how it's done. You know, I mean, people are now just starting to learn how to grade for it so that it can display properly on a monitor. And so, you know, it could be done badly and it would look really weird. But the examples I saw were amazing. They're in the Canon booth. They had a prototype, a 4K display with high dynamic range. And they showed a scene inside of a dim bar. Okay, you go into a bar, it's very dimly lit, but there's a window on one wall of the bar, and it's looking outside at a very bright day. Now, on a normal shot, on a normal monitor or TV, you'd see the detail in the bar, but the window would be completely washed out. It would just be this white, shiny mess. But in this shot, you could see all the detail in the bar, in the dimly lit bar, and all the detail in that window. It was truly remarkable. So
it's funny because, of course, your eye can't do that probably.
Well, it can. No,
sure
it can.
So it's I mean, but what did you say? 12 to 15 stop range is much bigger than the human's eye.
That's correct. Eye. Well, not ultimately, but instantaneously. Yes, that's true. So
that's important.
Yes,
because our eyes fool us because they iris up and down.
That's right. We have an instantaneous dynamic range that we can perceive of. I've heard some people say it's like 5 or 6 stops, something
not
like
much.
that.
Yeah.
Well, but current TVs are like 2 or 3 stops.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know it was that bad.
Yes, it's that
So where
bad.
do we get a TV that can do this HDR? You obviously can't just do it with a regular television.
No, you can't. You can't. Now, they're just now starting to come out. Vizio announced this week, re-announced, their reference series, which is a high dynamic range TV. It implements Dolby Vision high dynamic range. And you'll be able to buy that. They didn't announce an actual date, but this year, certainly, I'm sure. And Vudu and Amazon Prime are going to be streaming high dynamic range content.
And that's the other side, of course. You have to have a TV, but the content.
But you have to have content.
So it sounds like good. I've been waiting for a 4K. Maybe I'll get a 4K HDR sometime next year.
Sony announced a prototype that we'll probably see at CES in 2016 as well.
Scott Wilkinson, Home Theater Geek, twit.tv/HTG, and of course, avsforum.com. Thanks so much, Scott. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You caught my meaning.
I did. I saw it this time.
I know you have a timer, but I think that I can always do this for you.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to do it right now while you have a great time with this fabulous audience.
Thank you so very much. So, hey, chat room. So very nice to see you. Mike Mann asks, explain what a nit is. I didn't use that word in that segment specifically because I didn't want to explain it, but it's just a shorthand for candelas per meter squared. It's the amount of light coming off of a surface, like a TV screen. So candelas per meter squared is the same thing as a nit. And if you want to find out how many foot Lamberts that is, which is another unit of measurement of that sort of thing, you basically divide the nits by 3, roughly. I mean, that's basically what it is. So current consumer content is mastered or graded for a peak brightness of 100 nits, which is what TVs can actually do more than that these days, but that was based upon CRT broadcast monitors. So the people in the studios would have these Sony broadcast video monitors, BVMs, that were CRT based, and they could only do 100 nits peak brightness, the maximum brightness that they could do. And so that's what content is graded for. And now that we're coming into the age of high dynamic range, we think probably the new grading standard will be 1,000 nits, so 10 times greater. And boy, you have to see it to believe it. I can talk about it all I want, but it doesn't really matter until you see it. Now, not everybody agrees with me, and I'll point that out right away. I put a thread up on AVS about high dynamic range and what I saw at NAB, and there are some people on the thread who say, "Oh, it's not that important to me." Helo Pilot in the chat room here wasn't that impressed. Okay, that's fine. If you're not impressed, you're not impressed. I'm tremendously impressed. And so I think it's really a very important thing. Let's see. Hodor asks, so will new TVs be 4K for a while, but better to wait for 4K plus HDR? In my opinion, yes, absolutely. Much better to wait for HDR. As I've said all along with 4K, the number of pixels or the pixel density on the screen, I don't think is nearly as important as high dynamic range and wider color gamut. And those two things kind of go hand in hand. The high dynamic range TVs that we saw at NAB also had a wider color gamut. Currently, the standard is what's called BT 709, and it's certain colors of red, green, and blue. The digital cinema standard is called P3, and it's wider. It has more colors in it. The ultimate, well, not quite ultimate, but as far as we know now, the ultimate color gamut is called BT 2020, which is wider still. And there were actually a couple of monitors at NAB that have Rec 2020. Rec 2020 is the common way to say it, but it's more technically accurate to say BT 2020. They have that BT 2020 color gamut as well as high dynamic range. So the answer to me, Hodor, to your question is yes, absolutely. I would wait for 4K plus high dynamic range. Vizio is going to introduce it very shortly. Samsung already has it. The SUHD TVs are high dynamic range now. So, you could get one of those. They're mostly curved, which I'm not a fan of, but beside the point, HDR is a tremendous advancement in TV technology.
Thank you, Scott.
I only have a few seconds left.
Top of the hour. You want to stick around? You feel all right?
You betcha.
All right.
Yeah, great.
Now I have to figure out how to get this thing. I screwed it all up. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Patrick in Camarillo, California. Hi, Patrick.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
I'm well.
Good.
I keep saying Camarillo because Frank Zappa had a song.
Yeah, same thing. Camarillo Brillo.
Camarillo Brillo. And so that's the only I know it's Camarillo. It's just in my head. Anyway, what can I do for you? I'm sorry.
Well, my wife's starting nursing school in fall, and we need to get her a new laptop. Her existing laptop is 9 years old. It's a Toshiba Satellite. It's running Windows 7 slowly, but it's doing it.
Yeah.
So I figured if we got to get her a new laptop, and she's got to learn a new OS, 8.1, might as well switch over to Mac. I don't know yet. I don't know anything about Mac. The last computer I bought was about 5 years ago. So,
well, first of all, congratulations to your wife. That's wonderful. And it is about time. 9 years is a long time for a laptop. I have a rule of thumb, and it's kind of getting outdated now, but my rule of thumb for many years was Windows for business, Macs for home. A lot of people bought Windows because that's just what you had used. It's what everybody else is using. And so there's kind of a herd mentality. And it is really true that you also need to consider, well, who's going to help you? Who's going to give you support? And you want to get a computer or a phone or whatever where you're not out there all alone, where somebody, your friends and family members and you can help her.
Yeah.
You also have to question now, because it's for nursing school, if there are any apps that the school will want her to use or expect her to use that require Windows.
No.
You know that already.
The thing that they've suggested her apps for iOS, and she's got an iPhone.
Nice. All right.
So, and my father's a Mac guy. I'm not, but
that's good news. And he's here. What you want is he lobbying to go to Mac? Because then you could say, well, we got it because of you, Dad.
No, not whatever's best for her.
Oh,
it really doesn't matter.
What you want. Okay, but if he's familiar with the Mac and he is kind of on board to help out if there's need. Yeah, I like Macs a lot.
Yeah,
And the reason I like Macs, first of all, because they've been small market share, they've not really been a target for malware. You can pretty much surf the web with impunity, even if there's bad stuff out there. It's all targeted at Windows. So
now, what book do I get? Air, regular one, Pro? I don't know.
So the MacBook Airs right now are lower quality screens than the other Macs because they don't have so-called Retina displays, high resolution displays yet. That's increasingly becoming a disadvantage. Almost all computers now have high resolution screens, at least 1080 from top to bottom. The MacBook Airs are 768 top to bottom. It's not great. If if you can go to the Apple store in your neighborhood, and I think there's one nearby.
Thousand Oaks, yes.
Yeah, TO. Go to that store and look at the screens and spend some time looking. They're nice about letting you do that, especially since they'll be helping everybody buying the Apple Watch. So look at the screen and really look at it and see. Once you it's like HD versus SD TVs. Once you get used to high def, it's very hard for me now to use a lower resolution screen. I like the high res, but they cost more. They impact battery life and so forth. My recommendation probably for her is something with a little more power. They have this new MacBook, beautiful screen, decent battery life, not great, but kind of low power. The best, if battery life's important, the best battery life there is the MacBook Air 13. That thing goes 10 to 13 hours without a charge. So if she's going to take it, go to school, and use it all day, that might be the right choice for her. And they're very light. They're very portable. And I really like them. They're not... but like I said, the screen's not super great.
Better than what she has.
Yeah, well, look, she's going to be thrilled because anything's better than that old satellite. Yeah. The MacBook is gorgeous. You know, I don't know if they have them in the stores yet. For a long time or for last week they haven't. But if you could play with one in the store, that might be okay. She's probably mostly email, web browsing, and then doing homework and using Office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be fine for that. I bought the new Mac 13-inch PowerBook, the MacBook Pro. And I'm showing again my age. The MacBook Pro because it had a lot of power, and it's still fairly compact. It's lighter, much lighter than the satellite. 13-inch display is going to be smaller than what she had, but I think with the high resolution, very nice. So that's one to look at as well. If she needs more power, and you can upgrade the RAM in that one, you can upgrade the processor and upgrade the...
Would you recommend upgrading to the 8, or she's just going to be using it for, no photos, no movies. It's going to be for pages, numbers. Would we need it?
My suspicion is that the right thing for her is the 13-inch MacBook Air.
Okay.
It's very portable, which is nice. And its battery life is incredible, which is nice. So,
4 gig or 8 gig of memory?
I would get 8. That's future-proofing it. You can't upgrade them. So get the largest hard drive and the largest amount of memory you can get right now, because nothing's upgradable in any of the Macintoshes.
Yeah, and then the processor, leave it with the one that it comes with?
i5 is fine. Yes, the one it comes with is fine.
5 is fine.
But have her look at the screen. You make this fun. She can go and shop for it. By the way, that's a fairly affordable one. I think that's $1,300 at the base model, or $1,200 to $1,200 the base model. You could spend a lot more. I spent almost $2,000 on a MacBook Pro, and the MacBook itself is the same price, but a lot less of juice, a lot less power. Not that makes a difference. It might, So if she really wants the thin, light, she's not. The MacBook with the new MacBook, the other disadvantages, doesn't have any connectors. That's not the end of the world. You're going to buy the $79 dongle that gives you extra connectors if you need them. But it's really made for what she wants to do, which is carry it back and forth to school, probably take notes, write papers, do research. It's actually, it's great for that. It's kind of more like a tablet, but it has a high-res screen. So that's a little expensive. It's $1,300, but she may say, this is right for me. It's so thin and light. It's less than 2 pounds. It's a pound and a half. Yeah. And it's as thin as her iPhone.
Okay.
And I think because she has an iPhone, probably going to a Mac is not a bad idea. Just let's go all. This is Apple's designed it this way. Let's go all Apple. Why not?
Yeah, that was one of my big decisions. Stick with Windows or go with Mac. Since she's got to learn a new operating, might as well go with Mac.
Why not? Let's go all Mac.
Okay.
Hey, that's nice. Congratulations. Have a great time. You're going to find it's very easy. Some of the Windows mindset you'll have to get rid of. But once you figure it out, pretty much PCs are PCs. Let's face it. There's not that much difference anymore.
Okay, thank you, Leo.
Thanks for the call. Congratulations, you too. George in Tarzana, California is next. Hi, George.
How you doing? Leo, I have an XP computer, and I want to transfer my files to my Windows 7 computer. What's the best way to do that?
Microsoft has a files transfer program that's built in that does a fairly good job. I often tell people, this is an opportunity to make a backup, to go down to Costco or the warehouse store, buy an external hard drive, a USB hard drive, and just back up everything in your documents and settings folder. And the advantage of doing that is now you have a backup. You can copy that backup to the new computer, but you always have that backup. Backing up is so important. I seem to talk about it a lot. So you can use Microsoft's built-in file transfer wizard, and it'll copy everything over. You probably should do that because it does everything that you want. But eventually, can it just at least do me a little favor? Think about getting an external drive and copying your data to that as well. It really makes a difference. You can just drag it over, or you can use a backup program either way. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. More calls right after this.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Nice to be back here with you. Liz is asking, does HDR require more data and therefore eat up my monthly data plan? Great question. The answer is yes, it does typically take more data, primarily because instead of representing each color, red, green, and blue, with 8 bits, which defines how many divisions the brightness range can be split into, it typically uses more bits. In most of the monitors we saw at NAB were 10 bits. Dolby Vision uses 12. Well, the Dolby Vision monitors use 12. So that definitely adds to your data load, if you will. And, and 4K certainly does also, although we do have more efficient codecs now. HEVC is the de facto standard and probably will be. There are a couple of other little outliers, but that's the one that's going to be used. And that gives you between 30 and 50% savings, 50% at the high end, if you're lucky, over AVC, which is the current compression format. But, there's 200% more pixels, and going from 8-bit to 12 is 50% more bits, which is a lot. And so, yeah, that could be a concern. On the other hand, most data caps are in the 150 to 250 gigabyte range. So, I've been told, I think it's a problem, but other people don't that I've talked to that I trust. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. It's a brave new world out there. Birdman is asking, will HDR content look better on 1080p plasmas than standard 1080p content? Great question. And I saw a great demo of this at NAB in the Dolby booth, where they had a standard definition, or a standard dynamic range, monitor, and they were showing content that had been captured in high dynamic range and then tone mapped down to standard dynamic range. And they showed that next to an image, the same image that had been captured in standard dynamic range, or at least graded for standard dynamic range. I think the images were captured the same way, but in one case it was, well, that may be wrong. I don't know now. I have to think about that. Anyway, what we saw was that the content that had been captured in high dynamic range and then brought down to standard dynamic range looked better. There was more detail in the image than there was in the one that was originated as standard dynamic range. This is the same effect as when you capture more pixels than you're ultimately going to use. So, for example, if a Blu-ray content. If a movie is captured or scanned, if it was on film, in 4K and then down-res to 1080p for Blu-ray, that looks better than if you captured it at 1080p to begin with. So, and this is true also in audio. If you capture at a higher sampling rate and bit depth than you're ultimately going to end up with, it sounds better than if you capture at the final resolution. So the same is true of dynamic range. And so the answer is yes, it's going to look better than what was captured in standard dynamic range. Let's see. Anybody else got any questions? I'm scrolling back up through the chat room. Boogaloo asks, is there a good HDIB with wireless speakers for under $400? I don't know of any. I do know of a good soundbar system from Vizio with wired speakers. I don't remember the model number off the top of my head, but somebody in the chat room will probably find it. That does not have a receiver, nor a disc player or anything like that. If you want a true home theater in a box, Samsung makes them, Panasonic makes them, Onkyo makes them. But I have, in the old days, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have recommended the high-end Onkyo home theater in a box. It was not wireless, but it sounded pretty good. The most recent Onkyo home theater in a box I heard did not sound that good. And for $400, sorry, you're just not going to get anything very good. I apologize for that. Well, I don't apologize because it ain't my fault, but that's the way it is. Looking Back asked a great question. I answered this in the chat room. Is HDR affected by viewing distance as 4K is? And this is one of the reasons I love HDR, high dynamic range, is that you can see the difference, the improvement, in my opinion, from clear across the room, no matter how big or small the screen is. With 4K, with the number of pixels, to see the benefit of it, you have to be up pretty darn close to the screen in order to see, oh yeah, that's got more detail than 1080p. But with dynamic range, man, you can see that across the room. It's really amazing. And it's one of the reasons that I think it's more important than pixel density. So let's see here. Table asks, when will we see HEVC, this codec I was talking about, on cable set-top boxes? Good question. Probably not for, I would say at least a year, probably more like 2. I'm just guessing here. But that is not going to happen instantaneously. I think broadcast and cable and satellite are going to be the last to adopt the latest technologies. Streaming is where we're going to see where we're going to see 4K first, where we're going to see high dynamic range first. That's coming out this year, very soon, in fact. So as Leo and I were talking earlier, this is the age of streaming, and at NAB it was all over the place, and that's really where it's going to happen first. So there, I see the clock, and I have. Oh, look at that! A great inset. How wonderful is that? Thank you, Leo.
Oh, now you look at it.
Well, I'm looking into the camera. I'm trying to look at people. I'm trying to make eye contact. But your inset actually is very helpful.
I think that's the way to do it. That way we can see you, but you see the clock.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
Only took me a little fiddling. I could actually do... well, we're running out of time. So thank you, Scott.
We're running out of time.
Yes. But I could actually do chat room. Let's put the chat room and then you like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Scott. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Hope you feel better. Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte here. The tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartwatches, smartphones, and all that jazz. 8888, ask Leo the phone number to call. 888-827-5536. If you have a question anywhere in the U.S. and Canada, that's toll free. We're all over the country. We're in 200 stations on the terrestrial radio, and the internet brings us to every country of the world. And we often get calls from around the world, and you can use Skype if you wish. Skype out to call that number. It should be free for you. 888-827-5536. Stuff I talk about is in the stuff is in the show notes. That's at techguylabs.com. And that's free. You don't have to sign up. I don't want your email address. I don't need it. Thank you, though. Just go by and visit. We got great show notes takers. I think James is coming back from NAB today, so he'll be getting those show notes, the preliminary version, up tonight. And then Josh in my office fleshes them out, does the tip of the week and the how-tos and stuff, and then also adds audio and video from the show after the fact. So we get it all up there for you, so you can go back in time, search it, which I think makes it more useful. For so if you're listening and say, what kind of camera does Leo recommend or whatever, a lot of that stuff's there. techguylabs.com. Been in a little bit of a battle with iPhone users because I have the temerity, the audacity, the insulting independence of mind to say, actually I think Android's a little better than iOS. Let's be honest. I give Apple a lot of credit. We would not have smartphones. Well, by now we probably would, but they may not be as good. Had Steve Jobs not said, you know what, we can make a better phone. And it was in many ways harder to do than making the Macintosh. A really challenging effort that took Apple several years. Finally, in 2007, they came out with the iPhone. And all credit to Apple for really creating that category, for showing the way. And then immediately Samsung copied them, and Google came out with Android. And I understand Apple being miffed about that, just as they were miffed when Microsoft came out with Windows and it had a graphical user interface much like the Macintosh. But that's the way it is in the industry, and that's good for consumers. Let the dinosaurs fight, but it's good for us. Because cross-pollination of ideas means more people innovate, change it, and give us more choice. So I'm very grateful, frankly, that after Apple created the iPhone, that others followed, were inspired by, and improved on, in many cases, the original design. That's good for us. And if you want to choose the iPhone, by all means. If you want to choose a flip phone, by all means. I've never dissed anybody for their choice. You need to choose what's better for you. Absolutely. But there is this kind of feeling like, well, how can you say the iPhone's not the best? And I got to tell you, it isn't the best. It's the best for some things. Android has a problem, a significant problem in the architecture of it. That means it's not good for musical programs, for audio programs. If you need to record, or if you're a musician, you need to play and you'll never see a musician in a band where people are using iPads using an Android tablet, because there's roughly a 10 millisecond delay in the audio chain, and that's enough to screw it up. It just screws it up. So you may wonder, well, why aren't there more tablet apps for musicians, for DJs, for that kind of thing on the Android side? Because of that. But that doesn't mean give the iPhone ascendancy, except in that area. And there are other areas where the Android device has ascendancy. For instance, Apple really locks down a lot of its features. One of the things I love about my Android phone is I can tap it to my camera. My Sony camera has an NFC chip in it. And if I tap my Android phone to the camera, the two will connect, talk to each other, and the pictures from the camera will be copied over to the phone, which is very handy for sharing them and so forth. Can't do that with an iPhone, not because there's no NFC chip. Apple only now, has added NFC to the iPhone 6, but they lock it down. They say, well, nobody else can use it. We can use it for Apple Pay. That's it. And there's a lot of situations like that. Apple says, we do this for your security and convenience. And to me, that's the really big difference between Android and iPhone. The reason I prefer and I consider the Android a better operating system is it's more open. There are more choices. Many more manufacturers make Android devices. That means there's some bad ones as well as some good ones. Only Apple makes an iPhone. Apple feels like, and they've always felt this way, it is better to have a curated garden where people's experience is completely controlled by us, Apple. We know best, because people will be happier. And obviously, a lot of people are. They sold 75 million iPhones last quarter. But I think that it's, not more dangerous to use Android. Don't worry about that. Android devices offer many more choices, many more interesting choices in a lot of areas, not in every area. I'm currently using the Samsung Galaxy S6, and I'm really thrilled with this phone. I think it is as beautiful. Now, when you talk about beauty, that's purely subjective. Purely subjective. And you have to judge what you consider beautiful. There's no objective standard for how a phone is. This is more pretty than that. That's how you feel about it. But I think it is very beautiful. I have the Edge version, so the curved edges. It's a good size. I like the size, about 5.1 inches. And now, here's something not objective. Apple makes a lot of hay about its Retina displays. The iPhone displays, and actually nowadays, are not really as high resolution as others. The display on the Samsung Galaxy S6 that I use, and I use the Edge version, is 577 dots per inch. Now, you could argue that's ridiculous. That's overkill. And maybe it is, but it is sure, it's a gorgeous display. Apple has been scooped in displays. There's no question about that. For many years, the iPhone had the best camera. And I've said that again and again. It's the most beautiful camera I've ever seen. But the Android cameras have gotten better and better. And now with the Galaxy S6, it is easily the best camera on any phone, in my opinion. Its low light performance is stunning because it's an f1.9 lens. Now, if you've experienced any other camera phone, you'll know that is the fastest lens ever. Just amazing. And the images I'm getting, I've never seen better. Crisper in bright light, in dark, in low light. Really good performance. And a very fast camera. So I'll have to, this, for the first time ever, I'm going to give an Android phone the top honors in cameras. And I think I'm not alone on that. The point being, and in many cases, it is just merely, do you want Apple to control everything? If you do, then you're going to be happy with the iPhone. I think there's some problems. There's some structural problems with the Apple Store, for instance. Developers are very unhappy because they can't say it out loud. They don't want to. That's one problem, is you can't make Apple mad because they control it. I think people who like Apple would like Benito Mussolini. The trains ran on time. The trains ran on time because he knew he was a strong man. Apple is a strong leader. But if you're a developer and you want to do a bug fix on your app, you have to wait till Apple gets around to approving it. You can't just push it out. And that can take weeks. That can be a big problem. There's all sorts of, you can't do a demo version of a product. There's all sorts of issues, and Apple knows how they want it. That's fine. If you agree with the Apple way, go for it. But just as I've said for many years, you shouldn't buy Windows just because everybody else does. You shouldn't buy an iPhone just because all your friends do. There's some good stuff out there on the Android side. And I think in my opinion, you compare it point to point, Android has unfortunately lapped Apple. Unfortunately for Apple. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Of course, I'm starting to demonstrate the camera, and it dies. I don't know what's going on here. My whole phone is decided. I'm going to restart it. It's decided to act up. It got camera shy. I didn't say you were a sheep. So I feel like I'm being often misrepresented here. Didn't say you were a sheep. Didn't say you're dumb, as Ben Thompson said. Oh, you're saying all those people are dumb. No. I'm not judging you if you want to buy an iPhone. But I think it's fair to say, if you objectively see people, here's my problem. People pick a team. It's not a team sport. And a lot of people pick a team and say, well, you're obviously no longer on the Apple team. I hate you. It's not the Niners and the Seahawks, my friends. So as an objective user of all technologies, and I do use all technologies heavily, I think iOS, because Apple iterates slowly, because Apple is a smaller company and is just one company, has fallen behind a little bit. I can give you lots of points, the keyboards, And by the way, the third-party keyboard implementation on iOS has not worked. It's very bad. A lot of respects. I said, I didn't say they'd support fascism. You also misunderstood that. I said, saying you like the curated space of the iPhone is like, I didn't say you are a fascist. I said it's like liking Benito Mussolini because the trains run on time. Yeah, you're right. The trains ran on time. There might be other side effects. Apple is essentially fascistic in the sense that it's not a fascist, obviously, not a political movement, but it says we know best, and you should not have porn. Bad. No. You should not have applications that are political in any way. You should not have applications that talk about marijuana, even if it's legal in certain states. Nope. And they don't, there's no appeal. There is an appeal process, but the appeal is back to the same people. There's no, Apple decides. Steve didn't like porn, so he says no adult content on the iPhone. I mean, that's not an issue for most people, but it's something to think about. Apple is authoritarian. Not totalitarian, authoritarian. I love BOS. I miss BOS. So it's time to leave for the tech guy. The camera, I'm just loving the camera on this phone. I did some fireworks shots. I'll share these last night. Is this the fast motion or the slow motion? Oh, yeah, this is the Giants game? The Giants, the terrible, terrible Giants game. Terrible, no good, very bad Giants. It's sad. Did the fireworks make people stay? Because usually it was pretty much empty by the time they had the fireworks. Pretty much. In fact, they almost lost us. It was pretty much, here's the slow-mo. I could slow it down even more. Here we go. I like this interface where you can pick what's slow-mo and what's not, and you can pick the speed and so forth. Yeah. Here's the fast one. This is 8X. Okay. There's back to slow-mo. This is fun. And that, you can do this with the iPhone. Lisa has comparable pictures of the iPhone. This is an animated GIF. It makes an animated GIF. This is a pano. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 88. Ask Leo. To Monrovia we go, where Michael is on the line. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you, Leo?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good. I really enjoy your program all the time. I'm not a very technical person, but I do listen to you, and I use a lot of your tips. Thank you so much. My question today is, I bought a home theater surround sound. It has the 5 speakers, and I put the speakers all where they need to be. And I got a Panasonic brain. I'm gonna call it a brain, the one that does all the work. I have a Samsung 55-inch television. I have a Panasonic DVD player.
You're set up. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I have Dish Network coming in with the DVR.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is the instructions are very, very simple. I don't know the names of the plugs, so just bear with me. I know you know. I just plugged everything in exactly how they asked me to. I bought a special cord. Costed me like $15. No, actually, it was like $20 for one of those special connecting cords that go from the back of the 55-inch television to the brain to the Panasonic. And I hooked up all the speakers, negative and positive, all correct. And I turned everything on, and I got nothing. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Just give me some tips.
This is why, by the way, people often get somebody to install all this for them. It is complicated. So, but I'll help you understand the conceptually what's going on. So what you call the brain, the Panasonic, is actually an AV receiver, an audio-video receiver. Did you ever have a stereo when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a receiver, you have speakers, You had a turntable.
Yep.
This is what we called component stereo system. You have a component TV system where different things are doing different things. Everything goes through the Panasonic. I'm assuming from your description. So the Blu-ray player, for instance, has, and those cables are called HDMI. So the Blu-ray has an HDMI cable coming out of it. It should say out. They label them on the back. Into one of multiple HDMI ins on the back of your receiver. One of the things your receiver does that's very important is take a variety of inputs, 4, 5, 6, sometimes mine has 7 inputs, and then one output. Make sure you get the one that says to TV, the one output that goes on an HDMI cable from that port to the television. The television is going to stay on HDMI 1 or wherever you put that HDMI cable. And you have to look on the TV, make sure that you know where that input is coming from. Because that TV, there's a little input button on the remote. You must select that input. Not channel 3. That's the old days. You must select the proper HDMI input. So that's step 1. Step 2 is on the Panasonic AV receiver. Now you need to tell it where the source is. So it has on its remote, but also on the front face, a number of buttons that let you choose a number of different input sources. They'll all map to those HDMI ports in the back and other inputs on the back. There probably is a turntable input for historical reasons. There may be other audio jacks and so forth. They'll all map to an input on the Panasonic. So let's make it easy. Let's say you want to watch a Blu-ray movie. The Blu-ray player has a single output, the HDMI output, that goes into the first HDMI in on your Panasonic. Now, the Panasonic's going to do two things. It's going to route the video to the TV set and route the audio to your speakers. Your speakers are all connected to the Panasonic. And in fact, it's going to see that it's getting 5.1 surround sound from the Blu-ray player. So it's going to decode that. It actually has to do some work to figure out where the sounds go, which of the 6 speakers the sounds go to. And it will do that. And amazingly enough, it will keep lip sync. So the audio that's coming out of the speakers will match the video coming out of the TV. You must set the Panasonic to HDMI 1. I usually use the labels that the AV receiver comes with. It'll have a cable satellite label. It'll have a Blu-ray label, CD, game. There may be a variety of different labels for those inputs. It's easiest if you use the labels that they are preset. Sometimes you can change those. So connect the Blu-ray player to the Blu-ray HDMI in the back. Connect the TV out from the Panasonic receiver to your TV. You've already connected the speakers. You made sure red and white and positive and minus, they're all correct. You should now play. Turn it up, turn on the receiver, turn on the TV, make sure the TV is the proper input, play the Blu-ray player, and that player should go into the AV receiver and come out to the TV for video, come out to the speakers for audio. You've got, it's a little complicated, I understand. It's a lot complicated. Sometimes when I take apart my setup, and every time I move, of course, we have to take it all apart, I scratch my head a little bit when I'm putting it back together again. One of these days, I'll make labels for all the cables. But in the meantime, you kind of have to go through it in your head again. But it's, I think, fairly simple if you understand that you're going to have a device that's providing the signal, whether it's your satellite box, your cable box, your Blu-ray, your CD. It's going to be providing the signal. That signal has to go into the AV receiver because it's the grand central station for this whole thing. And then the Grand Central Station will route video to the TV via the HDMI cable, and it'll route audio to the speakers via the speaker cables. And I would guess that if you follow the chain, partly it's, you have to spend some time thinking. You can't just plug things in and see what happens. If you follow the chain. So a couple of things I would make sure. Make sure your TV is set to the correct input on the back, the HDMI 1 input. Let's do HDMI 1. Make sure that cable's HDMI 1 in your TV. Press the input button until it says HDMI 1. Now see what happens. Many TVs have, we can get much more complicated. Many TVs have, for instance, audio return channels, or ARC. Some TVs have fancy signaling systems. Sometimes the technical name is CEC, but every manufacturer has a different brand name for this. But they allow the TV to control the AV receiver, which is nice because the TV, you can sometimes just tell the TV, I want to watch TV, and it will tell the AV receiver what to do and so forth. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. I know it's complicated. But try to just do one thing at a time. Get one thing working at a time. And Flyer in the chat room says, why does it have to be so complicated? Yeah, people ask me that a lot. My ex-wife would always say, well, why can't I just turn on the TV and watch it like I used to? But, honey, it's surround sound. Yeah, but I just want to watch my show. Yeah, but, honey... You know how I solved that? I got her just a regular TV. It wasn't connected to anything. Just turn it on. Flip through the channels. Maybe that's the solution. 8888 Ask Leo, website techguylabs.com. You know what I'd love to do? Maybe the chat room, you can help me, is find a very simple explanation with pictures. Because I think if you see the pictures, maybe we'll have to do it, of how all this. This really should be our tip, how to set up a surround sound system. It's not hard if you understand. I think part of it is just understanding what's happening. And we could put it on the website, techguylabs.com. I just want to watch regular TV. I just want to watch the ball game, please. We've talked about this before. There's some people that get it and some people don't. And it's not intelligence. It's just, I think it's a gene. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. HomeTheaterNetwork.com. Thank you, Dr. Mom. Let's get that in the show notes. That looks good. Well, let me look at the pictures first. Could be crazy, man. Crazy. Yeah, this is good. That's a start. This is the heart. The Grand Central Station is a receiver. Yeah, this is good. I mean, it's not really a... Oh, yeah, here's a connection diagram. Good, good. Home automation. Front projector. Bedroom. This is more a navigation system than a how to do it. This is more like, click on this, and I will tell you about these. But maybe if you see that, a light will go on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Website, techguylabs.com. Shane is in Yelm, Washington. Hi, Shane.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
So I'm in Yelm, Washington. Actually, I'm outside of Yelm, Washington, which is...
Yelm's the big city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all.
I'm out by Mount Rainier, which is beautiful.
Nice. Oh, gorgeous.
But I'm, as you say, at the end of the phone line.
Right.
Which means my internet is...
How do you get online?
Well, I'm on a phone. I mean, I'm
dial-up. You use dial-up. That?
No.
Oh, okay. You have DSL.
I'm DSL.
Okay, but it's slow DSL, I would guess.
As fast as they can give me, which is not fast. I've called them and asked them. They kind of laughed.
DSL speeds go down the farther you get from the central office. They're very much tied to distance. And past 2 miles... pretty much zippity-doo-dah. So that's why they laughed. They said, I can't believe you're getting anything.
Right. So I'm a professional photographer.
Oh.
And all your solutions, everyone's solutions are online.
Right.
And I don't have that option, really. No. I have SmugMug as my main website.
Me too. Love it.
It takes about 24 hours for me to load up a wedding.
Oh, gosh. That's terrible. How many images?
Around 1,500, 1,600.
Oh, well, that's a lot of images. All right. Well, yeah. All right. But still.
But they're compressed JPEGs, so yeah. Anyway, so I have a problem that most photographers don't is because I can't do online backup like I want to. I'm from Portland originally, and I miss Portland because of internet and cell reception, but I love it out here other than that. So I need to know what you suggest for in-home backup I have a 5 terabyte Seagate. I just ordered another one that's exactly the same. Is that kind of what you would suggest for mirroring?
Yeah. So here's your issue, obviously. You're not going to upload to Carbonite in a situation like that.
Right, I wish I could.
It would take years. So you have to do your own thing. And I would still suggest offline. Off-site. So photographers deal with this all the time. And I hope you've heard me talk about the incredible workflow solutions by Peter Krogh at dpbestflow.org. Digital photography, dpbestflow.org. He talks about workflow there, and he talks about 3-2-1 backup. Good, all right. Yeah, Peter's the king of this stuff. He wrote the digital asset management book, and he's a great photographer himself. So he deals, he understands this. But a lot of it really does rely on fast upstream. So backup locally, that's still just as fast. External hard drive, USB 3 is going to be pretty darn quick. You probably will have, you probably use a solution like Lightroom that will understand a nearline, offline, and online photos, so you can disconnect hard drives, but it'll know where they live and so forth.
Right.
But the real issue is, what if there were a fire in Yelm and your house burned down?
Well, my solution was that the 5 terabyte that I just got will be mirroring once a week.
Okay.
We would just mirror it, and then I would take it off site.
Perfect. That's a perfect solution. The bandwidth of a 5 terabyte hard drive driven across town is phenomenal. In a 5-minute drive across town, you've moved 5 terabytes in 5 minutes. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
Reed Hastings, the guy who founded Netflix, said that was the insight that inspired him to start Netflix. His comp sci professor said, which has more bandwidth, a fiber optic cable across the country or a semi-truck containing full of Blu-ray DVDs driving. And if you think about it that way, driving that 5 terabyte drive, as long as you have somewhere to bring it. My friend Steve Gibson mails burns DVDs and mails them to his mom. As long as you have somewhere to bring it. And then remember, you're going to have some restore time should something go wrong.
Right.
And so you have to think about that as well. Mom has to mail the DVDs back for Steve, but he's content with that. So, yeah, I think those are good solutions.
The question would be, I've already asked the question, but the hard drives, so I put them, what program, how do
you do it?
How do I do it?
Are you on Mac or PC?
Well, because I listen to you a lot, you've talked me into, and also photographers, talked me into switching to Mac.
Good. Then it's very easy. Super duper.
Okay. And just use that program. It has.
So it runs on your computer. It runs via schedule. It will make a bootable. The first thing you'll do is run it. It'll make a bootable backup of your entire hard drive on that external drive. And then it continues to run in the background and makes incremental upgrades. Here's the beauty of that. If the internal hard drive dies, you reboot the Mac, hold down the Option key, and say boot to the external drive, and it's exactly the same as if it were your internal drive. You don't have to wait every week or whatever. It's there. It's always up to date. So Super Duper is a must-have solution for Mac computers. There actually isn't anything exactly the same on Windows that I've been able to find.
Okay.
So it's a very good solution. There's a higher end kind of solution that in some cases I use it, some cases is better, called ChronoSync. Since you may not care if you have a bootable hard drive, I think you should, but you may not care. You may just say, no, I want that just to have photos. ChronoSync does the same thing, but just with specified folders.
Okay.
So your photo folders can automatically be synchronized over to that other drive. And it will run in the background as well and keep them in sync. You can have it run every evening.
And then when I replug it in, it'll search for the files that are different and just upload those?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds actually pretty cool.
I use both, Super Duper and ChronoSync. ChronoSync is about synchronizing folders. It goes in both directions. If you wish, you can go one way, so it just backs up, or it can synchronize two folders to make them match. And that's what you would do in that latter case. You would say, hey, these two folders are now out of sync. I want to make sure that everything's in one is on the other, and then they'll be made to be the same.
If I went that way, would you suggest me getting a USB thumb drive and just doing the boot up drive?
You could do that. Yeah, you could make it's nice to have, I think the ideal would be have an external drive that you keep up to date, that if the internal drive fails, you're immediately able to continue on. And if you're working on a wedding, the last thing you're going to want to do is get in the truck and drive over and get some, it's just not going to be fun. So that's
I will go with your expertise. I will just do that.
I like that solution. But I think it's good to have ChronoSync for other, for additional purposes. Somebody's reminding me that a file transporter is a good solution as well. That's a background solution. I use that as well. It's $99. You buy a little dongle. You have a network, I presume, at home.
Yes.
And you plug that big drive into the dongle, and then you make sure that your photos folder and your docs, whatever else you want to save, is automatically set up to synchronize to the transporter. So it's always going on in the background. And this might even work for your limited bandwidth solution. Have another transporter off-site if there's somewhere, an office or somewhere you can put it. That's what I do. I have one here, one at home. And it, in the background, uses the internet to keep them in sync. Now, you may not mind because it's going on all the time. You may not be aware of it, but it might just kind of keep things up to date. That's another alternative that kind of can survive the poor bandwidth solution. But
probably not. My wife gets on Netflix, and
she gets mad.
What are you doing?
Yeah. You're very limited. I feel for you, and it's going to be increasingly a problem. We're coming into an election cycle for the president of the United States, and it's going to be all online. It really is. I mean, all the campaigns are gearing up for that. So for democracy, for information, for shopping, for backup, for so many reasons, having high-speed internet is so important. And folks who live in beautiful areas like yours are kind of left out. We got to solve that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Ba-lump. Yeah, Liz, I don't think it's the green box on your street. I think, so here's what the truth is on DSL. And by the way, it's 2 kilometers, not 2 miles. I don't want to scare people. It's to the DSL switch, which is typically in a rack in a data center that the phone company owns. You probably in your town, we do, 2 blocks from here, have a windowless building that says AT&T on the front or something like it. And in that windowless building, if you went in, and you can't get in, it's very secure, although I have been in them, you'll see rack after rack after rack of switches. And some are from the phone company, some are from SonicNet or DSL Extreme or Earthlink or whoever the various DSL providers, because the government, the FCC does require that the phone company allow other people to be in this building. That's where the DSL switches are. And so that's the distance. It's from your house to wherever that is. It's not typically in a green box outside. It's the DSLAM, as PC Guy 88 points out accurately. Sometimes we call it the CO, but it's the DSLAM. And CO sometimes the CO is different than, you might have something closer, but typically, he must, because I don't know the geography of Yelm, but it must be fairly distant from the nearest DSLAM. Yeah, VDSL. Yeah, there's new DSLs. There's DSL2 and so forth. And that, but I guarantee you, he doesn't have that as an option. Maybe he does. I don't know. No, it's hard to get in, Zendrum. Well, maybe not. That's what Kevin Mitnick used to do, I think, is break into these network centers. Okay, Uverse. Yeah, I guarantee you he doesn't have Uverse. Pretty much sure he doesn't have Uverse. Maybe he does. I don't know. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 88. Ask Leo. We were talking last break with a fellow who's living in the beautiful, beautiful parts of Washington State, but unfortunately, as is often the case in a rural area, you have beautiful scenery, fresh air, neighbors are far away, internet non-existent or very slow. And I have to say, it's not an unusual problem. Did you read the story a few weeks ago? A guy was very irate. He bought his first house, beautiful house. And of course, because the guy was I think he was a work-at-home programmer, so he needed high-speed internet. And he called the cable company. I think it was Comcast. Why not? Of course it was. He called the cable company and said, can I get high-speed internet at this address? They typed in the address. Yes, sir, you can. So he moved in. Then calls the cable company and says, okay, I'm here. Let's hook up that high-speed internet. And they looked and said, well, no, sorry, you can't because we're way too far away and we're not going to dig a trench to your house, even at any price. Even if you paid for it, we're not going to do it. So forget it. And the guy says, I have to move. He's selling his first home, brand new house, I'm sure taking a loss. And he's furious at Comcast. Now, it's your first house, so maybe you didn't know. But believe me, the first thing I do I've purchased a few homes. We moved in about a year ago to our newest home, a little bit in the country. And first thing I do is say, show me the cable box. Because you can't trust, I'll tell you what, it's not really Comcast's fault because Comcast grew so fast and they acquired a bunch of companies to do so. And they have many interconnecting computer systems that don't talk to each other. So that search for the address in the computer, and you can do it for yourself, there's no guarantee that's going to work. They don't really know. You have to verify it. You have to go look around the house. Do I see a cable box? Talk to the current owner. Do you get cable TV? How do you get your internet out here? A lot of due diligence, I think. If you rely on internet, and more we do, then it really is worth the due diligence before you buy a home. You check, do you get water? How's the electricity out here? You check that. How's is there gas? But internet's one of those. How's the internet? Is it flowing freely? Ask the neighbors, maybe. Yeah, because they'll probably know. Oh, there's no internet out here. That's why we live here. Don't want that Twitter on our doorstep. Nope. Let's go to Xavi in Barcelona, one of my favorite cities in the world. Hi, Xavi.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for calling.
Thanks to you for receiving my call. I'm really enjoying talking with you.
Thank you. I'm glad you called.
Well, my question is, I wonder if anybody knows when it will be released, the Apple Watch in Spain.
Oh, you didn't get it, really?
No, and we don't have any date yet.
That's a shame. Apple tries, of course, to launch products, increasingly tries to launch products at the same time everywhere. But for, I guess, logistics reasons, they can't. Spain, that's in Europe, I would think, would be a big market. I haven't seen a date. I think that they said they're launching in 170 countries. It's amazing to me that Spain is not one of them.
Yes.
One thing you can do, you're right on the border there in Barcelona. Yes. Could you go across the border and buy it?
Yes. By the way, this next summer I'm flying, all the family, we are flying to California, and I wonder if I buy the Apple Watch there, if I could have any problem flying back home with a guarantee or even software. Because, I think that they are international devices because when you turn on an iPhone, it asks you, where are you from? But I wonder if it's absolutely clear.
I can't. Okay, now consider the source. But my sense is, in this case, it's true with the phone because you have to use a local carrier. The Apple Watch doesn't use a carrier; it uses the phone. So if you have you have to have a working iPhone 5 or later.
Yeah, I know.
But if that's working with whoever your carrier is in Barcelona. I think there's no reason at all that Apple Watch should not work. And you could buy one in the States or go across the border to France and buy one. You would have to, of course, warranties and all of that would be an issue. You'd have to kind of bring it back over the border and get it fixed that way. But I don't think, and maybe there wouldn't even be an issue there. You might even be able to bring it to an Apple store in Barcelona and say, hey, can you fix this? I don't think that's going to be an issue. It will absolutely work. It will not, as far as I know, there is no check for your nationality on the watch. I think that you could buy one, bring it home, and it would work just fine. Because it's not a phone. And it talks to your phone and gets everything from the phone. The phone is the one that's negotiating with the local carrier. That needs to be, a Spanish-compatible phone. But yeah, I don't think that as long get an adapter for the charger, obviously. But if you got it in France, it'll work fine. And I think that's it. I think that it'll work just fine. Yeah. So you're anxious to get one?
Yeah. Probably I will buy one next summer. Yes.
Yeah. While you're in the States, a lot of people do that. While you're in the States, pick one up.
We'll be on vacations in San Francisco some days, and then we are going to drive to Yosemite.
Yeah.
Los Angeles, and then we will go to Carmel, San Francisco, and flying back home.
Come visit us if you have a little spare time. We're just an hour north of San Francisco. I'd love to see you.
Yes, I will see our schedule if it's possible.
Yeah, bring some paella.
That's great.
I love Barcelona. You live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and the Catalan people are so warm and friendly. And we're glad to have you, host you in the States. I hope you get an equally wonderful reception in the U.S. And pick up and watch, because as far as I know, I'll ask around, there's not going to be any issue with using it in Barcelona. Okay?
Thanks a lot, Leo.
Great to talk to you, Xavi. Thank you. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night is right. It's what, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. there? Yeah. I love that. So nice. I love it that we're all around the world. Time has flowed. Todd's coming up in Topeka, Kansas. He wants to get an extra battery. He's about to travel. I've had to do that with the Galaxy S6. I was so disappointed. Samsung for years has had removable backs. You can put extra batteries in. Not with this one. So I actually have found an external battery that works pretty well with it. We'll talk about that kind of thing when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our show today brought to you by Gazelle. I love Gazelle. You'll love Gazelle. Everyone who has gadgets loves Gazelle, because Gazelle's the place to get rid of those old gadgets so you can get the new gadgets. Gazelle now both buys and sells gadgets, which is really cool. People often say, well, what happens to those gadgets that I sell to Gazelle? Well, the very best gadgets, they turn around and sell back at a very good price. It's a great way to trade in your old Samsung phone, your iPhone, your iPad. They'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads for a great price. The price is locked in for 30 days, which is nice because that way you have time to decide, do I really want to sell this? Once you get the offer, though, after 30 days or anytime in the first 30 days, you can press the button. And what I'd do is I'd get offers on a bunch of stuff. You must have other stuff lying around. Get it all in there. Then when you check out, they'll send you a prepaid box. They send you the box with postage paid, and you ship it back to them. Shipping is free for anything worth more than $1. Actually, you might say, well, why would I give you anything worth less than $1? Well, it's a great way to recycle old stuff, too. I got to say, they recycle it ecologically sound recycling, green recycling. You also get paid fast. You get a check, PayPal credit, or 5% more with an Amazon gift card. But that's the sell to Gazelle. Here's the buy from Gazelle. The very best stuff they get back, they turn around and give you at a very good price. iPhones, iPads. I think they have Samsung phones as well. And they have two conditions. They have certified like new, which is basically new, and certified good. In both cases, they run these devices, of course, through a very rigorous inspection, 30-point inspection, make sure they're fully functional. You have 30 days to return it risk-free, but you're going to save a lot. Samsung Galaxy phones as well. Go to gazelle.com to sell, to buy. It is a great resource. They've paid out over $200 million now to 1 million customers. They've been in this business for a long time, and they do a great, great job. Gazelle, gazelle.com. I feel bad. I was going to take the Jeopardy online test. They did it for the first time this week. You could do it online. I signed up. I was ready. Thursday was the only time I could do it, 8 o'clock Thursday, the last one. I sat there. They said, okay, 30 minutes, the test begins. I went in the other room, forgot about it, and I came back and said, thanks for taking the test. We'll let you know how you did. I'm sure I got 0. I know I got 0. I didn't even see the questions. I'll have to wait till the next time. So the only thing I'm kind of, it's kind of a no-win proposition, because either I do fine, and which I wouldn't, because it's very hard. And people go, well, he's a tech guy, of course you do well. Or I embarrass myself, which is much more likely. And you go, that Leo knows nothing. It's kind of a no-win proposition. You think it's be a few years before the next online test? No. I bet you they'll do it again. It was ridiculous. Yeah, it's hard. I did the practice tests. I found them difficult. But, yeah, I know, Liz. I got back 820. Thanks for taking the test. Oh, whoops. I guess they were serious when they said it begins at 8. I love, I wouldn't do it, but Lisa's urged me to do it, because we'll sit there in the gym while I watch Jeopardy while I work out sometimes, and she said, you should be on this show. You getting answers to questions the contestants don't even know. Yeah, wait till I'm there. I like Jeopardy. I love it. It's fun. Dr. Mom did it. She says, your mind just needs to be a junk wagon of trivia. It is, though. You know that, Dr. Mom. You know that about me. Yeah. And it's not just the questions. It's a buzzer technique. There's a lot of stuff you have to, there's strategy. There's the clicking. You have to click right when Alex stops is talking. Sometimes you see people on the game show going, because they want everybody to know, hey, I clicked, I know the answer. While the other person just calmly goes, then there's people with their arms folded. They're just going, yeah, it would be bad to be on with a multi-day champ, because that guy is like, I'm comfortable. But see, I figure I have one advantage, which is I wouldn't be scared about being on the air. No, I'm talking about the not actual playing the game on TV, Dr. Mom. But I'm really excited about this website. I'll show you a website that I'm very excited about as soon as I can. I don't know if I zoomed in or something. It's called jservice.io. And what it is it's like every Jeopardy question for the last, 30 years, available through an API, through a JSON API. So that's my programming challenge. I think I've made it it's too hard of a programming challenge. But what I want to do is write a chat bot. I've told you this before. I want to write a chat bot that uses this API. They exist. Slack has one. They exist. I want to write a chat bot for our IRC, just as an exercise, in programming exercise, that queries the JService, because it even, it can, keep track of your score and all of that stuff. I'll do it all as Sean Connery. Alex. Computer Jeopardy. Boolean logic for 200, Alex. All right, here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, Leo, you can't wear your Google Glass during Jeopardy this week. What? Octa-core, quad-core, dual-core. Boo-boo, woo-woo. Don't worry about it. Why do you care? My new smartphone is an octa-core. It's got dual quad-core processors, Alex. But do I care? No. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, all that jazz. Smartwatches, too, 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number, the website, free to join. No, you don't even have to join it. Free to visit, free to use, techguylabs.com. Todd in Topeka. Leo Laporte.
Hello, Leo.
Hi, Todd.
How are you doing today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, I got a question. My family and I, my wife, are going to take a trip, two trips this year, one to Seattle and one to the Grand Canyon. And especially the Grand Canyon one, I don't know what we're going down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
Oh, fun.
And I'm not for sure what kind of electricity, power, that kind of stuff they'll have to keep my phone charged.
Are you camping down there? Are you going to camp down there?
We're taking a mule ride down to Phantom Ranch down there.
What fun.
Yeah.
So your smartphone may or may not work. I have no idea which carriers work at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but those big rock walls are not the ideal transmissive material for your cell phone coverage.
Yeah. I'm more worried about using it for pictures and video, that kind of stuff, to keep it.
So you can bring a big old battery with you. A lot of people do that. As I was mentioning before the top of the hour, I carry. I really like this new Samsung Galaxy S6 phone, with one exception. It only gets about 10 hours on a charge, and I have a 16, 18-hour day like most people. So what do? On the old Samsung phones, you take the back off. I always would buy two batteries for my Galaxy phones, and that way I'd have two batteries. I'd get twice as long. And even though the Note 4 has not much better battery life, I never noticed it because the battery gets low. I pry off the back, put the new battery in, and I'm good to go for the rest of the day. With an iPhone or any phone where you can't pry it apart and put a new battery in, you need an external battery pack. And lots of companies make them. My favorite company is Anker, Anker. You charge those up ahead of time. And what you're going to want to do is a calculation. How much juice do I need? So, for instance, the Galaxy S6 battery, I think it's 2,600 milliamp hours. That's the charge it holds. So if I got, as I did, a 10,000 milliamp hour external battery, that means I'd be able to recharge this phone roughly 3 times before I had to recharge the external battery. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a number of these. You can get several of them. You're going to charge a camera?
Well, I'm going to keep it more for at least a trip to the Grand Canyon for phones, stuff like that. The other
phones are pretty easy to do because they don't have giant batteries. iPads and tablets tend to need a lot more juice and hold a lot more juice.
I would like to get one more future-proof that, if I needed to take it, we do have iPads and, everybody in the family has iPhones so that, we have a little bit of a backup, a little bit of a buffer that we've got some energy if we do need it, if we're out and about for a long day.
So Anker, which is at IANKER.com, but I get them from Amazon. They sell them on Amazon, has a variety of choices that will work quite well. They even have a giant charger that will jumpstart your car. And as you imagine, that's kind of an unusual need. Portable jump starters have to have a lot of cranking power. But there are a lot of good choices here. And online as well. I just bought, one of the things these newer phones do is something called quick charging. Qualcomm invented this. The quick chargers charge the phone in about half the time, but they are special high wattage chargers, and you won't get that by plugging into your laptop. So you have to buy a special adapter. The Galaxy S6 comes with a quick charging adapter. But I searched around and I found a company, Aukey, A-U-K-E-Y, which makes a 10,000 milliamp hour portable battery that in fact does do quick charging. And I was very happy about that because now I carry that. I went to the ball game last night. Of course, my phone wouldn't have made it through that entire evening, but I had in my pocket a relatively small, about the size of a deck of cards, battery that I could plug into, and within an hour, my phone's back to 100%. That's nice. Aukey makes 1,200 milliamp hour chargers as well, even 20,000 ones, and they're not expensive. They're 20,000 milliamp hours, which should give you enough juice to charge your phone and your iPad a couple of times. Is $35 on Amazon. So, is that the kind of thing you're looking for? I mean, that's fairly small. You could put it in your backpack.
Yeah, I was that's what I'm interested in. I didn't know if you like one brands, but that's a couple of brands I can look at.
I know there are many. They're all probably made in the same factory in China. But what you do want to do, be a little bit careful because if something's real, look, lithium-ion batteries are kind of dangerous. If they overcharge, they can catch on fire and explode. So any good battery device will have circuitry that prevents that. But I guess if you got a really cheap third-party charger where the company didn't care if you blew up, you might have some issues. So in fact, the first time I plug in any one of these batteries, I don't leave it alone. I watch it. I watch it when it gets to max to see what happens.
How long once you get them full charge on them, how long will they stay in reserve?
They don't. What we call is leakage, and lithium-ion batteries don't leak too badly. You've probably got a week or two before you have to worry about it. They hold the power quite a while.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So what you do want to do is check the couple of things. First of all, the battery size on your device. You can almost always find that online, and you're going to do some math there because with there's maybe some loss, but basically the total milliamp hours that the battery holds is divided by the amount of battery juice that your device can hold will be how many times you can fully charge it. You'll also want to make sure that the external battery has ports that can give you enough wattage. An iPad, for instance, requires 11 watts. Most batteries now will do that. You can either just look and see if it says will work with the iPad. By the way, if it works with the iPad, it'll work with everything else. That's the most demanding device out there, except maybe your laptop or a camera, as I said. But if it's just portable devices, I think most of these will work quite well. I'm looking at this 20,000 milliamp hour Aukey portable charger. They have smart charging, so it automatically adapts to give you the right wattage for your device. It does quick charging, that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you're looking for. But there are a lot of, and then if you want something more compact, maybe there's some that are like tubes, like a tube. Yeah. And those have less juice, but they're easier to carry. So a little shopping will give you some great results. This is nowadays. I'm kind of sad that I can't change the batteries on my phone, but nowadays that's what most people do. They either get a case that I don't want to put it in it's such a beautiful phone. Same thing for the iPhone. I don't want to put it in a case like a Mophie case that's a big battery. Then I just get a giant size phone. But I will carry in my backpack or my man purse a little extra battery.
Yeah. Or if you get a case, you're locked into that phone too, or that phone size.
I like. The reason Apple and now Samsung do this is you can make it a much more compact, more beautiful phone if it doesn't have to have a plastic peel-off back. What I guess Samsung will end up doing is keep the Note 4 as is for the power user who wants to put in an SD card and swap out batteries and doesn't mind that the back looks like a used Band-Aid. And then for the normal user, Apple's clearly shown that most normal users care more about the aesthetics of the phone than they do battery life. So for those, Samsung will make the Galaxy S6. I've been very happy with the S6. I think it's a really gorgeous phone, and it hurt me because the battery life just wasn't what I was hoping for. But carrying around a little external battery solves that problem. Thanks for the call. Have a great trip. Everybody's starting to plan for their summer vacations, aren't they? It's exciting. More of your calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, that's an interesting question. The new MacBook, it's probably 50 watts, probably requires 50 watts or more. So most of the time you can't charge a laptop because of the number of watts it requires. Most of these external battery packs won't work, but you got to look at the specs. Now I wish I got this 20,000 milliamp hour. But see, so the one I was looking for, I was looking for one that specifically did quick charging. I'd never seen a battery that did quick charging, and so I wanted to verify that such things existed. I got this Aki. This is the one, Quick Charge 2.0. Very happy with it. It does, in fact, quick charge. It's very simple. It only has one USB port. But this was the key for me. Licensed and certified to use Qualcomm's quick charge technology. Now, what's interesting is this Galaxy S6 Edge is not Qualcomm. It's Galaxy. It's Samsung's stuff. But apparently Samsung is using the same technology, or compatible, not the same, but compatible technology. They stole it. So RAV power, somebody's saying. That's good. I'll have to take a look at that. What's really happened is interesting. I mean, you can get a lot of juice in these now. I mean, I'm seeing 20,000. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I would be careful about stuff like that. What was the one I was just looking at? 28,000 milliamp hours. So this might be more for charging laptops. I wonder how big that is. 5 volt, 12 volt, 16 volt, and 19 volt. That's interesting. This is more like a laptop device. So that might work with the MacBook or even like a regular laptop. I don't know who Aki is. So you like RAV power? Did I spell that? RAV power. Charge faster. Charge smarter. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Anchor. I'm looking for that quick charge. Best I can tell, quick charging really is just higher voltage. Yeah, see, this total watts is 15. 5 by 3. So in the Aki I have is 18. That's what you're looking for. Yeah, we're not talking a lot of juice. Leo Laporte. Leo Tech Guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Carrie in Murrieta, California, our next caller. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. So excited to talk to you. Love the program.
Thank you. I'm glad you listen.
Yes. Leo, I have a question I've been wanting to ask you for years now. For about the past 35 years, I have collected all kinds of short stories. It originally was a kind of a religious thing, and anyway, I wanted to keep these stories and documents and speeches. It's now grown into recipes, photographs, any kind of article, and I've got them all filed right now manually in files. I have thousands of documents. What I would like to do, because I'm constantly, now that people know that I've done this, are asking me if they can borrow them or access them, and I'm trying to figure out what the very best kind of online library I could tap into, either Dropbox or something like that would be the most resourceful for them, that would help them, so that someone in New York can just, a brother-in-law can say, hey, this subject, what have you got on it? And
this is what the internet was made to do. You know that, right?
I understand that. But I'm trying to
So are they all? Yeah, I'll help you. Are they all digital now already, or are there some?
Not yet. I'm going to have to scan them.
So yeah, the first thing you'll want to do is scan them, and what you should understand about scanning is that really all you're doing is taking a picture of it. It's physically no different than pointing a camera at it and taking a picture. So the scanning result is going to be an image file. Could be an uncompressed TIFF, could be a JPEG, but it's going to be an image file. Most value, of course, to you and your readers would be something that turns it into actual text. But then we call that optical character recognition, or OCR. It's challenging, especially if these are old newspaper articles, things like that. The print's tiny, the fonts are non-standard. It can be very difficult to OCR these.
Okay.
The other advantage of turning it into text is much more compact. A full-page JPEG might be, 10 kilobytes, 10,000 bytes of data. But the actual text itself might be a few hundred bytes of data or 1,000 bytes of data. Be much, much smaller, and then would be further compressible. So the stuff that's already digitized as text is going to be a snap. It's the images that are going to start to take up a lot of space. It's also harder to search because what do you search for? All you have is the title. If you can OCR it, I would, even if it's imperfect, because then at least some of the text in the body will be searchable. You probably will still want to serve up a picture because that's the actual text, and a human eye is so much better at deciphering the page than the computer machinery is. But it might be helpful to partially OCR it as you scan it. That way you'll have some extra keywords in the search. The next thing is, well, where do we store these? And remember, that's basically what a website is.
Right.
A website is an interface that you can, on your computer, go out into the internet, go to a specific location on the internet, and summon up a page. Often that page, the home page of that site, will be an index to contents in that site, might have a search, and you click, and as you click, you dig deeper in and you find the thing you want. That's exactly what a web page does. What you want is a web page.
Web page.
Yeah, and what you want to do is now this is going to take a little more extra effort on your part because, and I don't know. I mean, did you just imagine that you would send people the link to the file, or did you want them to be able to go on their own to get it?
I want them to be able to go on their own. See, like, for example, if someone calls and says, what information do you have on courage? So what I've got I've got 300 articles that talk about courage with a little explanation, and I filed them, say, the file number is like AA23. And so they can pull that up, and it gives a little explanation of what aspect of courage that is about.
That's a marvelous resource. Now, there might be copyright issues because of some of these things are articles that are copyrighted or owned by somebody else. So you might want to make it a private website and tell Google, don't look at this, don't index this. This is just for would be legal. This is my own use to lend to friends and family. But you want to make it easier for friends and family to find this stuff. And you might make a front page that says, hey, here's some of the popular topics: courage, faith, honor, whatever those things are. And they could click that link and then see a list of articles in that realm. Over time, you might spend some more time. You obviously have devoted a lot of your time to this. You might spend more time kind of fleshing that out with descriptions and curating it. And here's our special collection of the week, that kind of thing. And a web page is very well suited to doing that. And you'll store all those documents either on the web page. You could use Google for this, Google Drive and Google Docs. Once you scan them, if you scan them to PDFs, which is just a special kind of picture format, by the way.
Right.
Portable document format. Google will not only allow friends and family to read the PDF, it will do some of the OCR for you in the background, which might be helpful. So I think maybe scan them to Google Docs. You're not going to have huge amount of traffic, I don't think.
No.
Google Drive is very affordable storage. I don't know how many documents you have, but we're probably not talking more than 10 gigabytes of storage. That would be a huge amount of data. The Library of Congress is about 7 terabytes for reference.
No, I'm way under that. just a little bit under that.
So that would be a way to do it. Put it on Google Drive. Initially, Pete, you could just share the doc from Google Drive, or even share a section of Google Drive. You could put it, Google Drive allows you to organize them in folders. So scan into Google Drive. And by the way, I have a Epson Workforce Pro scanner. One of the options is not scan to my computer, but scan it to Google Drive. Just uploads it.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is
So if you had a document feeder, you said scan all this stuff to Google Drive, and you could go have a cup of coffee while it was just working through that stuff.
But when I scan that, I still have to input into the Google Drive. In other words, put an explanation on or something. Or?
Well, initially we'll have just a numeric file name. This is document 43, document 44, document 45. So you will then need to go back in. You're going to do a little more curation.
Right.
But there's no way around it. You'd be doing it anyway.
Which I'm fine with. Yeah. So from what I am understanding, because I was leaning towards Dropbox, but now you're pushing me towards.
I would go. This is what I would do. I would create a blog at Blogspot. That's Google's blogger platform, free. You can make it private, and it will connect very nicely to Google Drive. So you can create that front page. It says you want to see our documents on courage. There's the courage folder on our Google Drive. They click the link. There they are. They see all the documents. They can download them. They can read them online. They can even do some OCR if they want to try to get the text out of it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
What a great project. I'm glad to help you get it going.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah,
appreciate it, Leo.
It's nice. This is what to me, this is what makes the internet so useful. We all have areas of expertise. We have pictures that only we have, or audio recordings, whatever it is that you're passionate about. Create a web page. The free and open transfer of information on the internet is amazing, and what makes it powerful are the vast numbers of public web pages that people just put up, like ours, techguylabs.com, for you to peruse. That is hugely transformative. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You ain't seen nothing yet, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's so much fun to cover technology because it's always cool. You ain't seen nothing yet. If I think back even 10 years, where we were 10 years ago to today, 10 years is before the iPhone, before the iPad, before Retina displays, before high-def TV took over, before 4K was even a twinkle in my eye. Not that I created 4K, but I was dreaming of it. Technology has just incredibly expanded our universe. And what you could certainly see trends. And some of the best people in technology have been able to kind of see what's going to happen. Also, in many cases, have missed it. Bill Gates famously missed the internet. Whoops. In 1995, he wrote a memo saying, wait a minute, I think this internet's going to be bigger than we thought. Mobile technology really surprised a lot of people. But if you think about it, maybe in hindsight, it all fits together because what's happened? What is the major trend in technology? It is that processors get faster, smaller, lower power, roughly by 100% every 18 months. They called it Moore's Law. Moore's Law was that the number of transistors on a chip would double every year and a half. And that's held true for decades now. Gordon Moore was one of the founders of Intel. And they proposed Moore's Law, I think, in the 60s. Now, you might say, well, the number of transistors on a chip will double every 18 months. So I don't even know what that means. Well, a couple of things to point out. First of all, doubling every 18 months means exponential growth. That's a lot. And it's true. We now have trillions of transistors on a chip. I mean, it's astounding how much processing power we can put on a chip. And that's really what it translates to. Transistors really pretty closely equals ability, capability, power. And there's a wonderful book written by a guy named George Gilder, Gilder. He wrote it almost 20 years ago now, called Microcosm, in which he says, and he talks about, he says, there's never been an invention that not only increases in its abilities so quickly, but does so by reducing its cost at the same rate. You see, just as the transistors double, the costs go in half. And the power use is reduced roughly by half. So you have this kind of amazing virtuous cycle where processors get smaller, cheaper, and faster at an exponential rate. And we've seen that. Well, as they get smaller, that means you can put them in more and more places, including in your pocket, in your TV, in your microwave oven, in your coffee cup, everywhere you are. And that's what we're seeing. And it's really quite the revolution. And you could have predicted this back in the 60s if you just say, well, what does that mean? What is Moore's Law going to bring us? A massive revolution. Computers aren't smart. They feign intelligence. They're really just doing simple calculations, comparisons, branching, addition, subtraction. That's it. But the faster they can do it, the more it looks like thinking. Pretty soon a computer can play chess better than the best human, or play Jeopardy better than the best human. Or pretty soon a computer can pilot a plane or drive your car down the street safer than you can, not by being smarter, but just processing more data faster. And yet, what do we get? It's amazing. Just amazing. Billy in Los Angeles, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
It is amazing, Leo. Thanks for taking my call. I'm a huge fan.
Thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Really, really big fan. Appreciate it. So I'm in charge of doing a weekly corporate webinar. Basically, it's a video conference. We have about 4,000 attendees.
Wow.
And right now using computer microphone, computer camera, using Zoom web conferencing. And we have people all over the country with different forms of internet connection. You got people using their phones, some using hotspots, some are using Wi-Fi. But the reports I'm getting are that the audio and video keep cutting out, especially for the host, especially when we play videos.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a solution to kind of reduce the choppy AV and improve our image and audio quality, and just want to really figure out how to improve that. And ultimately, I want to make it like a TV channel. I want to do what you're doing essentially, but for a corporate environment. And so I'm just trying to figure out what resources to go to. I know TriCaster's kind of the go-to. I'm looking for what camera to use, what microphone, lighting, and ultimately, how I can get going to kind of put something together that's going to improve the way we deliver our content to our people.
The perfect example of what I was just talking about. I mean, even in the area of things like corporate communications, I used to do 20 years ago, used to help HP, back when I'm in my radio announcer days, do a communications to its sales force, huge sales force all over the world. They would make cassettes, which they would mail to the salespeople so that they would listen to it in their Ford Taurus fleet car as they're driving to a client. That was how you communicated. It's the best you could do. And then they built a television studio. HP, Apple, a lot of the companies in Silicon Valley 20 years ago built television studios to do the same kind of thing. So what's happened is digital technology has made this cheaper, better, and has put this technology in the hands of all of your staffers. So everybody who works at this company now has some ability to do this. But let's not forget how bleeding edge we are here, particularly streaming. Streaming video requires that the person on the other end have a pretty fast, solid connection. And that's why you're getting complaints. Because if somebody, you know people, I mean, they're going to sit in their car on their phone, drive down the street and expect to be able to participate in a webinar, moving 60 miles an hour over a 3G or 4G network. It might work, but also it might not, and there will be times when it goes back and forth. So you're not going to be able to overcome that. Even if you do what I've done, we've created a streaming television studio. We do audio, we do video. One of the reasons we do audio is so that people who don't have enough bandwidth to watch the video stream can listen to the audio stream over the internet. That takes a lot fewer resources. You're doing a webinar though, so I'm thinking you want some interaction too, right?
Yeah, we have people that will be contributing all over the country. So right now, as I said, using Zoom, we have people that we have on the East Coast, and we're based in San Francisco. So yeah, we do have different contributors throughout throughout the nation.
Zoom is fine. I would look at GoToMeeting, which is maybe a little bit more mature platform for this kind of thing. Does support better a variety of platforms. There are this is a very competitive space. Zoom is one of them. Citrix has a great solution in GoToMeeting. And I should say, former sponsor. I don't think they still buy advertising. Maybe they do, but I've always liked the company. I've always liked the product. Building your solution to do what I've done is not really going to solve the fundamental problem, which is how do we get this? How do we get two-way interaction with somebody with very poor bandwidth?
Right.
You know, what you don't see is all the people who are watching our video and audio who give up because it's stuttering. You don't hear from them. You hear from your staff, though. They want to hear it. They want the company webinar. There are webinar. GoToMeeting offers a webinar solution, GoToWebinar, that's specifically for this. That has polling and questions and two-way interaction and so forth. And because they're a company devoted to this, I think you're going to have a better experience for the variety of users and bandwidth. Zoom does it. Zoom's not a bad solution. They have a free solution, which is nice. You could try GoToWebinar free, I think, for 30 days. Might be worth that. I don't know of a better way to do it. You know, Google's got some really interesting solutions using a technology called WebRTC. You see it in Hangouts, Hangouts Live, Hangouts on Air, on their Google Plus pages. I think that's very interesting, but it's free, and it is free, but it maybe have some problems too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The sunshine of this show, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Dick DeBartolo joins us on the Tech Guy program, as he does each week, with a gadget or a gizmo. Hello, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
I as well.
Good. I have to tell you first, before the gadget, an hour ago, I got a phone call that my computer was infected.
Oh, no.
Yes, and I said, what?
What?
I know, and the guy said, I will talk you through it.
Of course he will, yeah.
And I said, but you know what? You do have to speak loudly because we're on the air.
Click.
And he said, what? I said, we're on the air, we're broadcasting. And then I got the click and the dial tone. That was the end of it, yeah.
I guess I won't help you. If that's how you're going to be.
Yeah,
so let's just, we talk about it on the show a lot, but let's just say once again, Microsoft does not call you at home unbidden to fix your computer. And that is a scammer who wants to either take money from you or take over your computer with malware or both. So don't do it.
No.
And you
Dennis
knew that.
did it, but I didn't. No, just I gave him Dennis's number.
I just forwarded to Dennis.
I said, you know what? I have someone you want to call.
Oh.
And I said, whatever you get, 50-50, okay?
Does Dennis use, Dennis is a graphic designer. Does he use a Mac or a PC?
You know, he uses a PC because I know nothing about Mac.
You're the tech support guy.
He can come, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tech support is just a phone call or one flight of stairs away.
or a flight to Bangalore. Either way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, actually, that's smart. And I always say that. You know, you got to consider who you're going to get tech support from when you buy something.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you got for us this week?
All right, so today's gadget is, I know you were riding a Segway a couple weeks ago.
I bought a Segway.
I know that you...
I bought a Segway. Comes next week. I love those things.
Oh. See, I was... All right, well, I'll tell you
You know what happened? The Segway folks just got sold to the Chinese knockoff company that they were suing. This is how bad it's gotten. So the company that was making knockoff Segways, and Segway managed to keep it out of the U.S., said, well, all right, we'll buy you then. So I thought, I better get a Segway now while they're still made in New Hampshire.
Get a real one with an instruction
I want a New Hampshire. Yeah, I want a New Hampshire Segway. So what do you got? You're not going to show me those crazy wheels you stand on, are you?
Yes, the one, not the IO Hawk, where you stand on, you're on two wheels.
Yeah.
But the one wheel, it's called Ride One Wheel is the website. And it's just a single wheel with a motor in it.
Yes.
Okay. And like a Segway, you know, it goes in the direction that you lean in.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
What I love is that it says, do not ride off-road. And when you go to the company's website, they're riding down mountains, over branches.
Do what we say, not what we do.
Along the beach. I actually called them up. I saw it at Digital Focus, and I called her after when I was doing the thing on GizWiz, and I said, in the video, they're riding like right along the edge of the water. Is it waterproof? Oh. And she said, no, it's water resistant. You can ride very close to the water, and it's sealed. And I had asked about replacing the battery on the run, and she said, no, because we tell people that it's water resistant. The battery is built in and not replaceable or removable. But 20 to 30 minutes of charging, you get another hour and a half of riding. So, but you need pretty good balance. I tried to ride it in the studio, and it is a little difficult for me. Kids, you can ride it with ease, I think.
Let me put it this way. I saw one of these. I think, I don't know if it was this one. There's one where your feet are on either side of the wheel, not front and back of it. This is more like a skateboard with a giant tire in the middle.
Yes, exactly.
But there's another one that's got just like a wheel, and your feet are on either side of the wheel, like on the axles of the wheel.
Oh,
and
I see.
We went to the Cirque du Soleil show 1, the Michael Jackson show in Vegas.
Yes.
This week on Monday, and the acrobats were riding those, and it's death-defying feat. And I thought, well, there you go. If I'm a Cirque du Soleil acrobat, maybe I could ride these things. Why is it always they look so good on the videos?
No, absolutely. And the fact that what impressed me is that whatever direction you go, and if you're going forward, the headlights come on, and if you go backwards, they become taillights.
How much are they? Maybe I should have got this instead of a Segway.
$1,500.
Yeah, see, the Segway is like $6,500.
Oh my gosh, this is a quarter of a Segway.
And that's what you get, a quarter of a Segway.
That is exactly right. You just get one of the wheels, not the handle.
See, I find the handle useful for stabilization.
I would think.
Just to hold on to something.
Now, do you ride this? Dennis and I were talking about this, about we would love Segways, but not in New York City. Do you ride? Oh, you don't have them yet.
What we plan to do is ride them to work.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So there are no rules?
No, there are no rules in Petaluma. Petaluma is a lawless society ready to break into a gunfight we're in the Wild West, Dick. Of course there's no rules.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was the question Dennis had. Are you going to ride them on the sidewalk, or are you going to ride in the street?
Here's I looked into this, of course, before we bought one.
Yes.
Rules vary a lot. Different jurisdictions have different rules. In most of the country, they're viewed as an assistive vehicle, like a wheelchair or one of those rascal scooters, and you're allowed to ride them on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
There are areas, individual cities in many cases, I don't know what New York City does, but that say, no, you can't. It's a electric vehicle, and you have to ride in the street. I wouldn't want to have to ride in the street on this thing. You're as maneuverable as a pedestrian. It's not like, but on the other hand, if you hit somebody, you'd kill them. So it's kind of like pedestrian plus. It's like if pedestrian and a bulldozer. Maybe that's a better analogy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you should also buy a one wheel and see who gets to the office first. And who gets there alive?
Dick is at gizwiz.biz. That's his website. Play the What the Heck Is It contest for an autographed copy of Mad Magazine. And for those of you watching on the internet today, Dick's going to stick around and do what we call the Giz Fizz.
Well, hang on. Alex is here.
Yeah.
So
he's normally your engineer to do the Giz Fizz.
Yes. So what we decided is that after this, we're going to go for a boat ride, and we're going to try to meerkat the boat ride.
No Giz Fizz today. It's going to be on Meerkat.
On Meerkat.
And to know that, I'd have to follow you on the Twitter.
I set it up on my Twitter, but I don't know.
Carol Kane's in studio with Dick.
Carol Kane is in the studio.
What is your Twitter handle, Myra?
What is your Twitter handle, Myra?
Myra Joyce.
Myra Joyce.
At MyraJoyce.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, I'll cross-tweet it so people can find it on my Twitter.
Oh, okay, very good.
Laporte. Thank you, Dickie D.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
I can't believe how fast time has flown. Time to go home. But we'll be back again with another Tech Guy show. Heather Hammond, the Phone Ranger, thank you so much for such a fabulous job. You do a great job. Of course, Nathan Staten back at the studio. Back in the studio, Nathan Staten, who is playing the tunes, spinning the hits. We thank you. Our website, techguylabs.com. If you heard something on the show and you said, what was that? You don't have to write it down. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to call me up and say, what did you say, Leo? You just go to the website. It's all there. Now, this week, I think James DeRuvo is just getting back from the NAB show, so it might be later in the day tonight that the notes will get up, but that's where they'll be. TechGuyLabs.com. Have a great geek week. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the Twit Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.